Hello, everybody. I am Ursula Pottinger, and I'm here with my good buddy and partner in Be Above Leadership. And today we are going to play around and unpack with the whole unpredictability of life as it is right now and the impact it has on our life, on our energy, and actually on our brain. So, talk about a good topic, unpredictability. I mean, I am wondering what even is predictable these days.
Yeah, and I think that, a little bit of context that I think is so fascinating. I mean, this is a word that Ursula and I have been using a lot, prediction. And we've been thinking over the last couple of years a lot about prediction, and because of some of what we've been learning from the amazing scientist, Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. And what really kind of blew us away, so this is a little bit of background, and then we're going to talk about what that means right now, which I think is a really good point, Ursula. So it's this understanding that the brain, I think of it as like the prime directive of the brain is keep us safe. Like no matter what, try to preserve this system. And so what it's doing, I mean, I always thought, and I was even taught originally in neuroscience school, that we react, right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's kind of the thing. And then Dr. Barrett came along and basically mapped out the neuroscience of that. We're not so much reacting as we are constantly looking for what are we going to need to meet the next logically predictable situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we predict based on our past experiences. So it's like we're toggling between, well, this happened in the past, so what's going to happen in the future? What do I need to predict? What kind of energy am I going to need in my human system? And, to your point, Ursula, one of the real challenges right now is we don't have a lot of experience with this kind of thing.
No, absolutely. When you think about that research and that really our brain relies very much on history and context to help us predict what's going to happen in the next moment. I do not have, and most of us do not have any evidence or history or experience with being sheltered at home for weeks and weeks on end and having to try and navigate this completely new way of being.
Yeah, and I think about, the purpose of prediction, and this brings me to a metaphor that you and I were talking about before, but, the whole purpose of prediction is actually, it's sort of like knowing what your budget is. And in fact, Dr. Barrett uses this term, the body budget. And so I was thinking about, what if you had a landlord? And some of them, sometimes she said, oh, just pay me $200 this month. And then the next month she was like, it's $1,200. That's what the rent is. And then the next month she's saying, it's $1,500 and then it's $50. Well, first of all, you probably wouldn't want to stay there because it would make you crazy. But if you were prudent, what you would do is you would make sure you always had $1,500 just in case.
Yes.
And our brain is even a better energy manager than necessarily all of us are with budget, because we might be inclined to just hope for the best that she doesn't ask for 1,500. Our brain is always saying, what is the worst possible outcome? And do I have enough energy for that?
Yeah.
So when you're in such unpredictable times, oh my God, it's like, you've always got to be ready for the worst.
Yeah, this is really interesting, and I love your metaphor. And I was sharing with you, and this is sort of really, really hits home. I was trying to figure out groceries this morning, various apps, delivery and pickup services, and it is really, after trying various things and nothing really worked the way I needed to. I was really wondering why after 2 hours, not only was I exhausted, but I was really cranky.
Yeah.
And the way it used to be was predictable. I used to make a list, get in the car, get groceries, pack them, go home, unpack them, and there I was. And this morning it was a research study.
Well, and then think about, it used to be that you never really even had to wonder whether they were going to have mayonnaise or,
toilet paper.
Toilet paper, right, or coconut oil or whatever you're looking for. And now it's like you've got to be in this loop of, here's what's on my list, but I better be ready that I need to completely readjust and figure out another way if I can't get the things on my list. So I think that that's that's an energy drain. It's like our brain is, we were talking about, it's like, on your iPhone, if you're running a lot of apps, it's going to drain the battery, even if you're not using that app in the moment. And I think our brain is running the toilet paper app.
I totally get that. And it's, I mean, I really love this metaphor because I can really see it. It's the toilet paper map. It's the have you washed your hands map. It's do you have a face mask map? And, it's this constantly having to figure out what is next when you really don't know what is next is just an unbelievable energy drain. So if you all are finding that you're exhausted, even though you're getting enough sleep and you're eating okay, that is what it is. Your brain's mental abs are running overtime, and it's an energy drain on your body budget.
Right. And then there's this bigger picture of saying, constantly being a little bit more in readiness mode and in the body and the brain that often looks like we've kicked off the chemicals that support us in a fight, flight, freeze reaction. We're a little in this, what's going to happen? Am I ready for it? Kind of place. And that's exhausting too. And that has to do with things feeling unpredictable.
I think that sometimes our sort of the over calibration of watching the news might be our way to help us predict or to hope for predictability. I have noticed that I listened to the governor of Minnesota at 2:00, who is always very clear and very kind. And as he was outlining a timeline, I could literally feel myself sort of breathing easier because it shapes some form of predictability that I didn't have an hour before.
Right. And I think that that's what good leaders do in any time of change or any sort of crisis is they give as much certainty as they can with integrity, that is not just pie in the sky, ridiculous, but is grounded in something because it helps us stop this constant question. And I think one of the things that we are seeing in good leadership right now is they're giving us what they can. And you're right, I think that does help. I think there's also this, sorry, I did something in my face, but I'm okay. There's also this general truth. And we know this as coaches, and it was good for me to remind myself. And I think also Ursula has helped remind me. And so it's, it's like if you're a coach, I know you know this already, but there is this that even when we can't control what's going on around us, what we do have impact on is how we're holding ourselves. And so that's what I think we should play with here. It's something we call the prediction process or the prediction cycle. And we're going to walk through it together and do the best we can. And by the way, if you're curious, this is Luz, L-U-Z. She's an older cat. She doesn't usually show up for videos, but apparently she wanted to be part of this because she's wise and older and has been through a lot. And I think she's just given up that she needs to predict anything.
Or she has so much wisdom that she can predict everything. But it's really funny about Luz is she's sitting so still. She looks more like a statue than a living being. Yeah, what a cutie.
That's her specialty, statue cat. Okay, so the first question that we have is that when we're feeling distressed, and in our language it'd be about, we might say below the line, you might be feeling sort of an uncomfortable emotion of some kind, anxious or whatever it is. The question that we'll often ask is, well, what are you predicting? So Ursula, in what area do you feel some kind of unsettledness?
Like really majorly frustrated right now,
okay.
Or early on before I talk to you, because you always uplift me and bring me back to my center self. But what I could feel was really frustration and incredible irritability.
Got it. And then for me, I think what I've been more aware of is a little anxiety. And it has to do with business.
Mm,
and wanting to, it's both money, but it's also, I love our work and I
yeah.
want to keep doing it and growing and learning. And I can't do that unless it, unless it somehow
Yeah,
pays.
people.
So I think I have some anxiety about, oh my God, what if, what if nobody ever wants what we do again?
Oh, yeah.
So in your, so step number one, the question is, what are you predicting? And so
Mhm.
from this frustration, what are you predicting?
I'm predicting that, in my case, I know it's simple and stupid, but hey, here it is. I'm predicting that I can't get the groceries I want efficiently, quickly, safely, and and maybe this is really the crux of the whole matter. It's Easter. It's Easter week.
Okay.
And Easter for me has always been my favorite holiday, even before Christmas. I love Easter from when I was a little girl, and now I'm wanting to make something special, just for my husband and I, especially because we're, social distancing. And I feel like what I'm predicting is I can't make it as
Get
special
it.
and nice as I want to.
I got it. Okay, so let's see.
What
So
you? What are you predicting from?
I'm predicting that this will, when I'm there and I'm in that anxiety, and like everybody, we're not always here, but when I get stuck there, what I start predicting is this is going to go on forever. Nobody's going to have any money for professional development or training, and I am going to have to, spend down my retirement and drive Uber.
You'd be a so cute Uber driver. I ride with you anytime.
I'll just bring the cats along. Plus, there's nobody's going to be going anywhere, so there's nobody where to drive Uber to. Okay, so then the next question we ask is
I'm sorry.
what
I wanted to say you can call it the Catmobile.
the Catmobile. Yeah, it'll be a special thing. I'll charge extra for the cats. So
Oh,
the next question is what, because we always make our predictions, we come by them honestly. They're always based in some we say context or memory. So
yeah,
the context can be personal, it can be cultural, it can be something you saw in the news or the movies or whatever, but it's
yeah,
all part of your reality. So
yeah.
what context or memory do you have for your prediction that you can't get a nice Easter dinner and it's just going to suck?
That is such a good question. I have no idea where this has come from. Um, the the only thing that I sort of can think about is that in my house growing up, it was always a very special event. And it was, my mom just had this uncanny ability to make it great. So I have evidence to the contrary of what I'm experiencing right now. But I think that context and that memory is actually what's creating the anxiety.
Well, it could be, that part of the context is Easter should be special. Like,
Absolutely.
no kidding, no matter what.
Yep. I
Easter
mean,
needs
like
to
I
be.
grew up with that and I have a long, I've got very good, neural connections in here around that vacation, around that holiday, that is now, really putting me in a sort of into a tight spot.
Wow. And I think there's also just the context of all the stories about you can't get toilet paper and all of the, the friends that are saying, I tried to get a pork roast and I couldn't, or whatever it is. There, it's part of the context of our
Of the
combined.
environment as a whole. Yep. No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
That's a really good question. Like, where does that come from? Well, there is the context of the environment, of the like, you
Yes.
know, the, but it's really interesting, and we'll get to this because I also have other contexts. Talked to a client today, said, nope, all my leadership work just went virtual. So, but let me go to what is having me create this. I did have a couple of things cancel. We did have some in-person stuff cancel. That is part of we haven't yet really fully launched our virtual. So there is like an unknown. We've never tried to do that before. And I also think it triggers some context from other times in my life where I haven't been able to figure it out. Like when I got divorced And I was not a successful coach. This is about 11 years ago. And I didn't, I didn't have a sustaining practice. And I had to rebuild from nothing. And I didn't have a lot of sense of how to do it.
Yeah.
It took me a number of years, and I spent a lot of my retirement at that time. And so I think that part of the fear part comes from, oh shit, this is going to be like that again. And it was also, that was also right after the market crash. So it's like, oh shit, nobody wants what I have. And it's going to look like, calling my financial advisor saying, I need to take another $10,000 out of retirement.
Yes.
So I think I have that context as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
That's fun. Okay.
Exciting.
So the first question is, what are you predicting when you are, that has you in this below the line place? Oh, when you predict Easter's not going to be what it should be, and I'm not going to be able to make a nice dinner, and it's going to suck, what body sensations do you have? What emotions are you aware of?
So my body sensations is really a tightness in my chest and, really tightness around my shoulder and my neck. And, the emotions are
label it.
Yeah.
Frustration.
Yeah. Frustration and anger. I'm ticked off. How about you?
Let's see. So when I go there, I think I feel burning here. My heart, and the emotion that I would call that is anxiety. And the reason that I mention this is this actually all comes out of Dr. Feldman Barrett's work on how emotions are constructed. And her view and her research says we predict based on some context or memory, and we simulate. And so I'm not even, the truth is my income is okay right now, blessedly, and I'm not taking money out of retirement, and I do have enough right now, but my body is already acting as if I have to make that call to my financial advisor, or worse yet, there's no more money in there.
Yeah, and I really love that you're saying your body is acting as if Dr. Feldman Barrett calls it simulate, but I think that is a really great explanation of saying your body is already there, even you're not.
Right. You haven't even been to the grocery store to know that it's going to right? I was talking to a client this morning. We were talking about those conversations you have with the other person that they're not part of, but you're already, it's kind of like my body's already having this conversation that is not have anything to do with reality. And this is the emotional, this is the mechanism by which our emotions are based on prediction, because we're saying, if that happens, what will I need? And it can be a long trajectory where I could be in the if that happens loop for months.
Yeah. And imagine the drain on your body budget. And so Dr. Feldman Barrett calls it simulate. This is what's showing up in your body. And then we make an interpretation of what we're feeling. Yeah, we're calling it something. And, sometimes, and what I have really found amazing about this research is really looking at my body. What is my body feeling? And is the interpretation actually the right one? I worked out this morning and lifted weights. So the tightness in my shoulder could really just be, the 5 pounds were too heavy for, the Arnold presses.
That is fascinating. And she has a great example. This is just a short story. Then we'll go to the second half of the process. But she has a funny story about this interpretation where she goes on a date and she's like, her heart's pounding and she's feeling all, pit-a-pat, and she labels it, falling in love and first date nerves. And because she thinks, oh, I must really like him. My heart is beating and this is great. And then she goes home and gets a really bad flu. And what she had labeled was falling in love was actually getting sick. She didn't really like the guy.
And this is why I'm mentioning it, because I remember that story, and in the moment I actually don't think about, hey, this is probably not because you're frustrated or that's your interpretation. You probably that last exercise with 5-pound weight, that probably was too much, and this is why your shoulders are tight.
Right. Or, for me, it's like I'm feeling jangled and I'm feeling upset and all of that. And then I think I had 2 cups of very strong coffee because, I've gone up from one, and I'm trying to go back, but that can bring more adrenaline into the system.
That's
Okay.
yeah.
That's a
So
great example. I love that. Okay. So the third question, so the first, what are you predicting? Context, memory. So third question is like, well, how does that feel? And what are you labeling that? What are you making up about that? The next question is, what would you rather predict?
ease, you know how I am about
Oh,
ease.
and this has 2 parts. What would you rather predict? Not about the grocery store, about Ursula.
Yeah.
Because you can't predict about the grocery store. There might be ham, there might not be, there might be nothing. But
Yeah.
the only thing we can honestly predict about is us. So what about you?
Yeah. So going back to ease, I know that if I let go of controlling my environment, including the grocery shopping list and the timing of it all, if I let go of that and go, let it be simple, let it be easy, whatever is there will make a problem solved.
Well, and what occurs to me, let me just throw something out there, and this is why it's, can be fun to have a coach or a buddy, is, you could also predict that you're extraordinarily creative.
Yeah. Yes.
And adaptable.
Yeah. And I mean, I am known in my family for opening the fridge door and going, what's in there and what can I make for it? And out comes some meal chopped from, various leftover pieces.
Well, this and then goes to the final question, and we'll go there and then we'll do me. But the final question is, well, okay, so you could predict that it could be easy, that you could be creative and adaptable. What memory or context or evidence do you have for that? And you just said, I'm known in my family.
I've done it all my life. The kids would come home from school and go, what are we having? And I would go, well, let me see.
There's Friday night surprise.
Eggs and cheese.
Well, and I think also about you, and obviously I know Ursula really well, you've lived all over the world. Yeah. You've moved more times than
I won't remember.
Then I don't even know what the metaphor is. And so I think about probably all the nice dinners you've had to make on cardboard boxes, in unfamiliar places where you can't find the can opener. Like, you're a freaking pro at making beauty out of difficult situations. Like, you're actually really good at that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Did you not remember that about yourself?
Apparently I didn't. I had momentarily amnesia, yeah, you're absolutely right. And, my family and my husband particularly has always been in admiration of, meals served on cardboard boxes, paper plates, eating the fingers because the cutlery was lost.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You got lots of evidence for that.
I really do. I really do.
Prediction. So what is it like to predict? I can make this could be easy. What does it feel like to predict that instead of they're not going to have what I need?
Oh, all of a sudden I think, oh, this is going to be an adventure. I have no idea what's going to show up for Easter. We will see. Well, this is going to be funny. Now I actually think it's fun.
And what's happening in your body now?
Oh, it's like, I feel lighter and I feel actually excited. It's like, oh, let's see what surprises might there be awaiting for me.
Yeah, like an opportunity for creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel much lighter. The body it feels much lighter.
So that's just an example of her emotion was based on a prediction. And if we change the prediction, we can change the emotion. And when we change the emotion, we actually calm everything down in our system, and Ursula becomes even more creative. So
it makes a huge impact on the body budget. more energy,
because
etc.
you can predict that.
Yeah.
And she has evidence that she's done it before.
Yeah.
I don't have to, it doesn't matter what happens in the grocery store. Give me some beans and,
Whatever.
it's like somebody said, this makes me think of somebody said, we're all living in an episode of Chopped.
I love that. And Chopped is one of my favorite programs. And you know what? That is so true. That is so true. I love that.
Awesome.
Okay, well, back to the serious matter of
Okay,
your anxiety.
let's see. So
So
what
what
would I
do you
want to
want?
predict
Yeah,
about,
about
obviously what I want to predict is there's going to be lots of money, but what do I want to predict about me? Okay. What I would want to predict about me is that I'm resilient, that I am creative, that if one door closes, I can find another one. I want to predict that I will find a way that no matter what I would want to predict about me, not about the circumstances, is no matter what happens, I can find a way through.
And what evidence do you have about that?
Oh my God. I have found the way through some pretty screwed up stuff. I am like the king of finding the way through. I am I didn't even say queen. I am so good at that. I am so good at looking into the space and saying, what could we do? I am really, really resourceful.
And not only that, I would also throw the creativity back at you. I mean, you have written multiple books out of a space of, oh, what do I need to create next to, have more abundance, and that knock on the door and have it be open. You are a master at knocking on doors and enrolling people into seemingly impossible adventures, including me.
It's true. And I think the other thing that I'm really, really good at that I want to also predict about myself is non-attachment. Because when you talk about knocking on doors, one of the things that I've really gotten good at in recent years is knocking on a door. And if nobody answers it, I don't waste my time anymore.
Yeah.
I go find something else, and I don't get wrapped up in frustration because this person isn't answering that door. I go look for somebody else who wants to come out and play. And I'm really good at getting people to play. So I think I need to predict that. And that just makes me feel like sort of like you, it's so interesting that we have sort of, a really practical thing and then this sort of more conceptual thing, because it makes me think, well, what else is possible? Like, what cool thing might I do that I never would have done otherwise? That could be really, if I just stay non-attached to, that it has to be this person answering the door, this client saying yes, like, okay. And if nobody wants our, what we've done for 8 or 9 years now, and if they don't want it in the new format and that doesn't go, well, you and I are even more creative together. We'll think of something else.
Yeah. What does your body feel like now from in this new prediction?
Just calm and warm, and like it brings me to this question of that I really love, which is why we created the Neuroscience and Consciousness program, was in an answer to a need. And it brings me back to that. What is the need? What am I sensing out there? What is wanted? And I'm not saying it's not the program we've been doing, because I love that. And, my preference would be to keep doing it. But it's this kind of like, well, what else is out? What else is needed that I might have the right tool for, or we might have the right response to? So I feel curious, and I feel really calm, but a little sparkly. And I would label that curious and peaceful.
That is great. And I mean, both our examples are such great examples how the brain is really constructing emotions based on what we predict. And the power of this prediction cycle really is looking in here and going, what do I know about myself? Not the circumstances, that has me shape a new prediction.
Yeah, and I think the real power of having a coach or a friend who really sees you, who can help remind you, because in stress, I think we do kind of forget who we are, and kind of, start, that's when more self-doubt can come up. So I think that's really helpful. If you want the simple way to do this, I want to give you just 3 questions, because it's what I've been asking myself. So cut through all of this, or you can watch this and make notes and try to do it the way we did it. But I actually think the 3 questions work pretty well. So the 3 questions are: when you feel upset or freaked out, what am I predicting? Because even that, you sort of start going, okay, you are a silly, ridiculous person.
Yeah,
I did, right?
I know.
Like,
It's always the worst
nothing
case scenario. It's worst case scenario, always.
Right. So what am I predicting? And then the next question is, what would I rather predict about me? You can rather predict your way around when we all go back to work and all of that, but it isn't going to necessarily, you're not going to have any efficacy there, but you can here.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we said, ad nauseum. So what would I rather predict about me? Third question is, what evidence do I have for that? Because that is what will help your brain make it real. If it's just I want to predict that I'm just non-attached to anything and I'm just a happy person. Well, if you don't have any evidence for that, your brain is going to reject it.
Yeah.
But if you say, oh, I want to predict that I can come up with creative solutions in difficult times, and I did it then, and I did it in this situation, your brain will allow that in and help you hold on to it. I think does that make sense, Ursula?
Yeah, that makes total sense. The other thing that is just coming to me on top of everything else, maybe another layer for the next video, or who knows, is how important it is to actually celebrate and acknowledge who we have been. In our culture, very often it's like, in my case, yeah, I've moved 19 times, and yes, we've eaten from paper plates, but it's sort of like, yeah, whatever. That's just how we do things. Instead of really acknowledging, that kind of creativity. And in your case, to really celebrate your resilience, your creativity, your audaciousness to try anything new. So I think it's an important part of this evidence contextual cycle.
And I think
that's acknowledge that.
I was writing a blog post today about what we call in coaching the saboteur, or the negative self-talk. And that's the antidote to that, I think, is remembering, like, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Where is the evidence? And do you have some countervailing evidence for your negative, worrisome belief, which I think ultimately comes back to prediction. So thank you for watching. If you do like this, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we're really wanting to build that as much as we can and bring as many resources as possible. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Yes, thanks very much. Take care.